Alright, Catnapper, it's your lucky day. Here's my cat. Try to take him from me. So a trans content creator I watch sometimes, Victoria Rose, released this test online called Transgender Zone, and there's a quiz that just says, am I trans? So, despite the fact that I am nearly 2 years on HRT, despite the fact that I've been questioning my gender identity since I was even forming memories, and despite the fact that, I'm really rocking it as a trans person, let's just, really knuckle down and see if I am actually trans. Welcome. I'll ask you 12 thoughtful questions to help you explore your gender identity. There are no right or wrong answers. When you think about your deepest sense of self, which feels most true? I guess this test is for people who, haven't come out yet, so I'll pretend that this is me back in, high school and senior year when I felt my most alone. I think when I was 17, 18, I didn't know enough about the gender spectrum. I assumed bisexual and pansexual people were kind of just the same thing. I didn't know that non-binary people were a thing. I didn't know about gender fluid individuals. I didn't know about two-spirit, anyone. So it wouldn't have been the middle just because I didn't know about it, even though that is the answer that I feel is the most true. And at the time, I think I would have just said, I'm genuinely unsure. I had thoughts about being a woman. I had thoughts about, dabbling in feminine activities. But I felt pretty masculine. Or at least I was trying to be. I was putting a lot of energy into being masculine. A cope amount, some might say. An amount of effort went into portraying masculinity that one could then point to and say, wow, you're really insecure about your presentation. If you could wake up tomorrow with a completely different body, different sex characteristics, different gender presentation, how do you think that would feel? Even at 17, I was like, that sounds dope. That sounds fucking awesome. I would love to be a woman if even for a day. I feel like I could handle it better than most men could. So probably exciting and something I'd want to explore further. My ideal, gender journey is that I'm born assigned female at birth, and then I go on masculinizing hormones. I think I would rock it as an AFAB trans mask. How do you feel about your body's sex characteristics? Chest, genitals, body shape, etc. I was always self-conscious of the fact that my penis was small. I still kind of am self-conscious about the size, so I'm fine with my penis, but I wouldn't mind a vagina. But only if the vagina magically appeared. Surgery to obtain a vagina kind of scares me, but if I woke up tomorrow and I had one, I wouldn't be upset. I think as a teenager, I was still pretty happy with my body. I was always proud of being skinny. I was fine with bulking up. I can't tell if my workout phase was born out of a masculine insecurity, or if I just genuinely wanted to bulk up. But no, I was pretty proud of my body. I would run around shirtless a lot. I never really felt that uncomfortable. No, yeah. I would say generally okay with some normal insecurities. I'm very happy with my body now, especially now that I've started working out. It's a nice mix of muscle and also some femininity. I like the androgyny and I like the middle ground that I've been able to reach with my body so far. When you look in the mirror, what do you typically think? Once again, putting myself in the size 10 shoes of 17-year-old me, it was fine. Yeah, I was fine with the way I looked. At the time, I thought I was pretty sexy. Perhaps because I was already pretty androgynous. I wasn't the epitome of masculinity. Aside from body hair stuff, because I never really liked my body hair, I felt fine. I like the way I look a lot more now, and if HRT were to be taken away from me, I'd cry. But, before I transitioned, it was fine. I look okay, just normal appearance concerns. How do you feel when people use your current name and pronouns? I always hated my name. I changed my name not because I was transitioning, I just wanted to change my name. And it's less that I felt uncomfortable about pronouns, but I've always felt uncomfortable being referred to as a man. When I was a teenager, initially, I thought, oh, I don't like being called a man because I'm literally not one. I'm still a boy, I'm still a kid. By legal definition, I'm not a man, so stop calling me a man. Which in hindsight is probably not something a teenage boy would be perturbed by. If you could choose how others see and treat your gender with no social consequences, you would want to be seen as. In high school, I think I felt a lot of pressure to masculinize from my family and also just societal expectations. And I think if I had the choice to be I could literally do whatever, I think I would have started dressing more feminine as like an avant-garde fashion statement, you know? I wouldn't have realized it was a gender thing at the time, but like, I wanted to go all out for Gender Bender Day. And I got really upset when like Gender Bender Day in my senior year was canceled. I think sometimes one gender, sometimes another, or something in between. Looking back at your childhood and teenage years, which I have been doing, I'm way ahead of you, Test. How often did you have thoughts or dreams about being or wishing you were a different gender? Pretty often. More than like a cis person. I remember watching Toy Story 2 for the first time and begging my family to call me Jesse. When I transitioned and I told my girlfriend at the time that story, she gave me this Christmas ornament. I just thought she was so freaking cool. And I never wanted to be called Woody, which is telling. When you've seen transgender people in media or real life, what's your typical reaction? I wasn't able to interact with like many trans people, but there was this, I found the content creator. I know who she is now. Yes, Elena Genevieve. Back when I was in high school, I remember one of her, boy turns into girl in like 6 minutes videos went viral. And a church friend of my dad's like showed it to me and were genuinely like, wow, that's kind of cool. Not from like a trans support point, but from just like a, wow, it's crazy what you can do with makeup type of way. And I was obsessed with that video. I would watch it like several times a day for like a week. And like, at first I thought it was just attraction, that feeling in my chest, right? I wanted to like be her. I wanted to like harness that ability. I didn't even realize that like it was possible to do that. That was one of my more like memorable ones where I remember just like spending like hours in totality watching this video. I was so blown away, and I like nothing has really given me that feeling like ever. How much do thoughts about gender identity affect your daily life? If we're pretending that like I'm a 17-year-old taking this test, I'd say occasionally cross my mind, but don't interfere with anything. Gender crossed my mind, obviously. Like I was kind of coming into being a feminist, while at the same time kind of being like a little bit of an incel. It's a thing. We could delve into it later. Obviously now gender identity is like always on my brain because I'm just more aware of it. But when it's like so binary for you back then, it's difficult for you to even like ask that many questions because I knew I didn't want to be a girl. Like sometimes I did, but like it wasn't something I was like pining for. I was non-binary, so like, but I didn't know that was a thing that existed. Like I was hungry for like dragon fruit, but I don't know what dragon fruit is, so I just kind of have a general craving for fruit. If you imagine living your entire life as the gender you were assigned at birth, that feels somewhat disappointing or limiting as a 17-year-old. Now, I would pick completely unbearable, not really living. But as a 17-year-old, I think I would be like, like, sure, like I am a man, or like, sure, that's like what I'm supposed to be. But I do feel constrained. I remember like using my sexuality, like my bisexuality, as an excuse to like dress a bit more feminine. So I was like, that's what bisexual people do. When you think about exploring different ways of expressing gender, clothing, name, pronouns, etc., that feels, I think, appealing but scary due to social consequences. It took me a while to change my name. It took me a bit longer to like change my pronouns. I started exploring with clothing, but that felt easier, if only because like I felt hot, which in itself is like, you know, kind of telling. You know, you feel attractive in feminine clothing. Maybe the attractiveness is a comfortability with like the way that you look now. Being attractive is very important to me, but I never really felt attractive in like the men's health fashion tips type of way. How do you feel about the possibility of medical transition, hormone surgery? I mean, now obviously I'm on them, but as a 17-year-old, I think that would have been scary. You know, I think that would have been like, ooh, that's for like actual trans people to do. I'm just kind of exploring here. I think it would have felt scary. Like, it would have felt so permanent. It would have felt like an actual, like, thing. It took me forever to even, like, get Invisalign. Your responses show some patterns that point towards being transgender. And, hey, look at you now, 17-year-old me. I like that this doesn't just out and say, like, you are for sure transgender. Because I do think 17-year-old me was having, like, doubts both ways. I wish there was something about, like, sure, there are steps that point to me being trans. I wish there was something along the lines of, hey, like, you might not want to switch to or identify as the opposite gender completely, but are you familiar with like genderqueer people or gender fluid people, non-binary people? Because I think that might have unlocked something in my brain. Was this a waste of your time going to the trans channel with the trans person on it, wondering if they're trans and taking a quiz to determine whether they're trans? Spoiler alert, yes. Yes, I am. Anyway, I'm Quinn. Sorry I haven't uploaded in a while. I got fired and I got really depressed. I have a new job now, but I still feel spiritually unemployed, if that makes sense. But if you want to help me out, I've got my Patreon down below. I do book reviews, you can get your name in the credits, you can just generally see more of me. In your own leisure, in your own time. But if not, subscribe, comment, stick around. We like trans people, we like queer people. And Catnapper, I see you. You're looking at this bad boy, aren't you? He's not yours. Although I low-key don't like him that much, you can have him. Honestly.